In this episode, I meet Madeline for the first time. This conversation is a really clear example of how fast it is to be in conversation with me. I really do cut to the heart of the matter. Welcome to the Plumb podcast. I'm Rosalee.
And I'm Sarah.
And we are the Plumb Collective. I'm used to meeting strangers. That's something that is really fun and interesting to me. But I think most people, when you don't know each other, there's a little bit of awkwardness, or you're not really sure what the experience is going to be. There's a warming up period that happens. When I'm the other person in the conversation, that goes really fast because I feel what the tension in the air is. I feel the ice that needs to be broken, and I just cut right through that and say it out loud. This conversation is a really clear example of how fast it is to be in conversation with me, and that I really do cut to the heart of the matter. I feel the feelings of what you're expressing, and then I reflect that back to you in a way that you can hear it in Madeline's response and reaction to the things I say. You can really feel how things click in for her.
This same sort of thing happens in a photo reading where you're cutting through the ice, warming the ice very quickly, but the other person doesn't need to say a singular word to you. They do send you their question and their photo, but other than that, nothing else is required from them. And you're able to do a similar thing in the photo reading as what happened in this conversation.
Based on Madeline's personality and the things that she shared in this conversation, it was very clear to me that she likes to know. She's reading parenting books. She is understanding how the body processes information. It was a very easy recommendation to suggest the diner to Madeline, because the diner is really the how-to guide, how to take Plumb practice and your photo reading experience even deeper and to really make it your own and play your life. We're always playing some kind of game with each other and with our role in society. The rules have been made up by people that do not care about our humanity and our autonomy and choice and consent. In this conversation, we really come to understand how important that is for Madeline, how important it has been early in her childhood, and how she is now parenting from that perspective. It was just a very clear thing for me to suggest that the diner would give her the framework, a new game to play, rules that she didn't have to come up with on her own, but a framework that she could bring her life and her experiences and the things that she feels stuck in to this really cool and interesting game we've created. Feeling your feelings can be fun, and healing doesn't have to be hard. And in the diner, we really show you how that's possible.
One thing that really stood out to me about this conversation was the idea of where your energy is when you're thinking about or experiencing a situation in your life, and how a simple perspective shift can change the way you're seeing a situation and change the way you move and behave within that situation. That part was really impactful for me. And I've heard you say it in other places and in other ways. And it was really neat to hear it come up so naturally in this conversation and make such a difference in someone else's thinking about their own life. One thing that we say every week in Plumb practice is that there is the opportunity to listen as a witness when you're listening to our conversation in Plumb practice. That's something that you can do everywhere in your life in these podcast episodes. As you're listening to this conversation between Rosalee and Madeline, there's an opportunity to listen more deeply, to notice and feel the energy that's present in the conversation. Notice if you're feeling tension. Notice if you're feeling flow. The shifts that happen in the conversation is something that you can feel.
Hello, I'm Rosalee.
Hello, Rosalee. I'm Madeline.
It's so nice to meet you.
It's good to meet you too.
Before we get started, am I talking loud?
No.
Okay.
I was resetting my face.
Before we get started, I just want to give you an opportunity if there's anything you want to say, because I can understand if there's some anticipation for this call, or if there's just anything that's right there on the surface that you want to say before you read your writing.
Nothing other than just being a little nervous, talking. Just a little nervous. I'm nervous because it hasn't happened yet, but I know that there's nothing to be worried about because I just am having an interaction. So like I'm nervous, but only because it hasn't begun.
That makes sense. Is there anything that would be supportive to you in the nervousness or something that would be grounding in the experience?
No, I don't think well, maybe one question. I haven't worked out necessarily the bread yet. Well, I did, but it's not something I'm very confident in yet.
Do you want to say more about what that means?
I just don't feel confident in its like goodness. Like
Okay.
like I don't know if I've like captured a bread.
You cannot do it wrong. Whatever you felt and wrote as the bold thing that you read is your bread. It doesn't have to be good. It doesn't have to even make any sense. It can be a single word. It can be anything. My bread often is a definition. Ooh, this is what's coming up for me, or that's right here that feels bold. It really can be anything, but I think it's interesting that you have this feeling or desire for wanting it to be good or wanting it to be a certain thing. Can you say a little bit more about what you're hoping or wanting it to be for me to understand you or to appear good or like,
I guess in hearing you and Sarah's breads, they seem like something. And not everything has to be something,
right?
but it just didn't feel like looking through my writing that there was something that I felt like I liked very much.
Yeah, that makes sense. I often don't like my writing or don't think it's very good or think it's nothing. And then I'm like, okay, well, that's not what we're doing here. That's not really what it's about. Even this conversation, there's often a desire for the guest to feel like, I want to make a good episode, or I want to be understood, or I want it to feel a certain way. There's anticipation and expectation that I think we put on ourselves. I think that happens when we're in a conversation like this, but I think it also happens when we're writing privately just with ourselves. This writing and this bread is yours and is for you and is about you, and it doesn't have to make sense to me. I'm sure that it will. I'm sure that there will be things that I feel and sense and can ask you about, give my reflection, and that might make it feel a little differently to you. But I think that that's a really understandable that you want it to be something. My feeling is that it probably is really something. Just to be clear, I have not read your writing. I'm really looking forward to hearing it. Whenever you're ready, you can start with your bread, read your bread, then your meat, and then your bread again.
The body only proceeds from genuine feeling. The body cannot be insincere. I feel short of breath. My diaphragm is jerky, causing spasms in my breathing. My throat is caught. I have the word insincere, but I can't tell if I feel I am insincere. But I think it's more that I don't trust myself. I have resistance to doing this, but not from myself, from my body. Doesn't feel like it took part well. My mind swirls thoughts about my current experiences with not knowing how to communicate with adults around me. I struggle to make it through the day, so what I do, I manage my family and emotions in the household while trying to sustain a good time. My body is so weak and a traitor. My mind wants to participate, and my body locks up in response. Interacting with it like this, I suppose, is the participation, but it brings pain and sadness. When I turn in to notice in quiet moments, it feels. The marble, I couldn't relax or something, enough for it to travel very far. It became stuck rolling on a curve in the back of my skull, unable to make it over the edge down my neck. It eventually made it into my middle, not the stomach or back, but in between, a hard lump in my center and a dead end in my mind. The body only proceeds from genuine feeling. The body cannot be insincere.
Thank you so much for sharing. Is there anything that you want to say after reading it out loud?
No, I think it says what it is.
Yeah. I guess I'm asking if you want to say anything about how you feel after reading it out loud.
I feel okay. I feel like it doesn't like it says something about me, but I have a lot of thoughts about like how it is that I got here. And I have quotes in here for like trying to sustain a good time because I for my household, I have a sense of like we are a team and we're trying to have a good time. So if I'm telling one of my kids to brush their teeth and they don't want to, I'm not trying to make you have a bad time.
Mhm.
So like a good time is it's neutral. I'm looking for neutrality, not just like sparkles all the time. So I don't want to, so that comes up. And then for the actual marble part, feeling like I didn't, like my body doesn't do well, like it didn't perform the task it was supposed to perform. The marble's going places. What are you doing? Um, but again, coming back to just, this is doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. Can you read just your bread again?
The body only proceeds from genuine feeling. The body cannot be insincere. So I looked through the meat and I Googled insincere and um then I went to sincere, and sincere is proceeding from genuine feeling. And if I'm of the belief that all feelings are neutral and like you should follow like your intuition and believe your body and everything, then I also have to accept as a fact and not a belief that the body is only proceeding from genuine feeling.
So interesting, because I mean, I think your bread is majorly something. So that you started this conversation feeling like maybe it wasn't. I just find that interesting. Do you know why that is or what that is about for you?
I I just have a confidence thing trying to figure out a bread. The process of it was like, ugh, I don't know if it's like reassurance or
This is my sense or feeling, observation or sensation. As I'm asking you questions, I can feel the question pressing down on you, is what it feels like to me. You almost feel like you're getting squished. Then I feel your desire to push back up, having a good time, but all feelings are neutral. And then that kind of pushing back down. It's sort of, there's like a push and pull that feels like magnets when you try to put the opposite ends together. There's like a push and pull of tension in the air.
Mhm.
That's what I like sense in your writing and in our conversation, a bit of tension in the air, containing yourself and then also wanting to expand, but then pulling back in. Does this connect to you at all?
Yeah, I guess it just takes I feel like it takes me like the words don't necessarily come as one answer to a question. It's like there's lots of different possibilities, and sometimes I'm not sure where to go. So it's like washing in like a colander, like trying to like find what's going on here and then answering. I it's not like I feel like tension, it's just an inability, or not an inability, but just like there's a lot of options for my words, I guess.
Yeah. I guess tension not between us, but tension inside of yourself is what it feels like, or
Oh,
like magnetic sort of feeling of like wanting to expand, wanting to come together, and sifting through something makes sense to me. That I don't, this is going to be weird, but I'm just going to describe how it feels. What you're saying feels like on a horizontal plane, like you're looking and sort of shifting through the words or shifting through your feelings and seeing what kind of comes to the surface or what remains after you let whatever's falling through. And then as an experience being an external person being in relation with you, it goes more into like a vertical feeling, but like horizontal this way. That's such a strange thing to say, but that's really like, so I don't feel tension like between us this way,
Yeah.
or like inside of you this.
Yes,
Does that make sense?
it does. Yes, I feel that way
Okay.
on
And
the
so,
inside.
yes, it very
Yeah.
much internal sensation. And so what my feeling about that is that if you've had people in your life, people in positions of authority, parents, teachers, caregivers, adults that were around you as a child, just from this sensation, and I don't know anything about you or your history or anything, it would make sense to me is that if you had people that were trying to contain you, like trying to make you smaller or have you be not as expressive or not have a good time, that you needed to maybe be more serious or be more professional or be more polished in some kind of way, or I feel the word normal, but I'm putting it in air quotes and not at all. I don't agree with that, just to be very, very clear, but that's what it feels like, that's like an external pressure that has been there that feels like you maybe aren't in connection with that. And you don't have to say anything that you don't feel comfortable saying, but this is just my sense of what it feels like, that maybe isn't present in your everyday life. It doesn't feel like that external pressure to be normal or to be polished or perfect or whatever. It doesn't seem like it's actively occurring. It feels like you've created this household for yourself and this life to have a good time. But it feels like the reverberations of that, the external encasement of it feels like it's containing you. And then the pressure or the tension or the pushback of that. No, I get to be who I am and I get to express myself however I want and I get to have a good time. Feels like that's there. And then it feels like an internal protection mechanism comes in that is saying to you, like, okay, but actually, no, all feelings are neutral and don't get too sparkly or too big or too out there. A compression sort of feeling around the outside of you. I'm going to stop talking because I just said a lot of weird things and I want to know if there's anything you would like to say back to that.
Well, I think that's pretty spot on. I couldn't figure out for a really long time like what the deal between myself and my parents like necessarily was because they're not like technically bad people. And so I'm like, what is the deal here? And the more I learned about like neurodiversity and homogeny in the culture and like everyone bootstraps. These are the things to have like a good life. And they were all worldly things that I never saw success in. And I don't know, it's like being an unhappy person for so long. And then I feel like I flipped and I try to be present and interact with the energy in the moment and like what's happening in the moment. Because for a long time, and I think a lot of other people in my life, I see it, are checked out and just going through the motions. And I can't interact with the checked out person. I don't know, and they're just living a normal life. They're just going through the motions. Um, So I try to assess, because for me, I'm raising kids. I have a 7-year-old and a 5-year-old, and they're both adorable, love them. And they're very challenging. And every moment that we're having interactions, it does bring it back. I remember being a kid, and so my parents, they did put their emotions came first, and answering the why of different questions was never really an option for them. It was because they said so. And having to learn the reason for everything about why your body does things, like the reactions you're having. I've never learned I never learned that. And like trusting yourself, knowing when a situation is scary, like when people are bad for you, like not knowing the difference because the people you grew up with were bad for you. Like that's
Yeah. Yeah, I really feel that. And I'm so sorry for that experience. And it makes so much sense why you want for your kids to have a good time and to not feel the way that you felt. It isn't about people being bad. My belief is that there are no good people and there are no bad people. I really believe that people make choices and then our choices stack, and we can make an assessment based on a bunch of choices that somebody makes or a pattern of choices. When parents are putting their feelings and needs ahead of their children, wanting them to be a certain way, even if they have good intentions, it can be really detrimental to the child, especially if there's neurodiversity. There's so much accessibility that gets denied, accommodations that could have made things so much easier when you are an adult, and then you go, oh, that's all I needed. It was so simple and it could have been easy, and yet I had to struggle so much, and it's not fair. There's a lot of feelings that not knowing how to process or feel those feelings. It just makes a lot of sense. Thank you for sharing that.
yes. I uh spend a lot of time reading like parenting books and books about like neural brain development. And I've read a lot of dystopian novels recently, big fan. But all of these things are already out there. The information exists, people know, and it's just hard to feel like I would like more people to know more about how their body works. And I want to be able to express to people around me without feeling like they're being judged that I'm just talking about what's in front of us. I'm not giving you a hard time. I'm not criticizing. I'm just observing or freaking existing over here.
Oh, I get that. And for you, the phrase is have a good time. For me, it's I just want to have fun. Can we just have fun? I feel that very deeply. I have been called a know-it-all in a very derogatory way. I don't want to hear it. Do we have to talk about feelings? Now I can see I was just around people that were not curious, that were not interested in the things that I'm curious about and interested in. And they didn't support my interests when it comes to parenting and when it comes to just being in relationship or loving someone, period. There is an exchange of energy. What we want is an equal energy exchange, and we often don't get that. When it comes to parents and children, the energy exchange is definitely on the parent to be. To me, it feels like the flow of energy, it starts with the parent and then goes towards the children. But a lot of parents feel like their children need to be flowing their energy towards them. And it's
Yeah.
just such the wrong way. That's like not how it works energetically or in any sense. But when
Yeah.
people are in that opposite flow, things don't work out, and there's a lot of tension and disruption and no contact or very tumultuous relationships with parents and children. I can feel your desire to flip the script on that and have it flow in the way that feels right to you and feels natural to you. I think it feels obvious to you as well. It's probably really frustrating to watch people around you and be like, oh, they're doing literally the opposite. This is not how this goes. And the frustration in that makes a lot of sense.
It's just really draining. I'm thinking particularly that my 7-year-old's on a soccer team, and there's a parent, two parents who really, really overbear on their little kid, and they speak a lot of his medical business to us other parents to like explain their behavior. And it makes me so sad. I watched him say, "Dad doesn't love me," this weekend. The dad stands on the sideline and tells his kid, "Do this, do this, do this, do this," and then says good job. That good job doesn't mean anything if you just told the child they were doing it wrong the whole time. They know, they can feel that. And so then I spend time, recovering, and it just ruminating on the energy leak in the room. Yeah.
This is going to be maybe a strange question, but when you are in an experience like that, can you identify where your energy is located, like where you're at?
I might be the kid. Yeah.
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 Something you could do to interrupt that cycle, or when you're saying, now I need to recover, to notice it, to acknowledge it, which you're doing, which I'm super proud of you, and to be with the feelings of heartbreak or anger or frustration. You wish you could do something and you can't. There's what can you really do? And this is the parent. I mean, I'm feeling that, and I don't even know who the people are, and I want to go to the soccer field
Yeah.
and give them the business. But it's like, okay, the systems aren't in place for anything good to come from that. So what can we do? Like, how can we be powerful? How can we make a difference in everybody's life in the situation? And I really strongly believe that it is bringing your energy back into your body and into your center. I think that the marble went exactly where it was meant to go. I believe that in that meaty tissue in the middle of your body, where it's not on your spine and it's not on your front and it's right smack dab in the center, is the seat of your soul, is your creative center, is where your energy resides, where it wants to be, where it's showing you where it would go to. What's happening for you
That's
right now?
fair. That makes I think that makes much, yeah. I hadn't considered that it was hurting my feelings. I thought I was just upset because she was doing it wrong. So,
Yeah.
yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. There are things that you can do to support yourself in those situations. It's noticing it, it's allowing
Yeah.
yourself to feel those feelings that are yours, and to like sift through, like, okay, yes, there are probably specific feelings for this child and what you think could happen, or what the future holds for this child, or what this parent should be doing or not doing, and whatever. Those are all external things that I think are important to feel and to acknowledge, but those are out of our control, out of our command. You can be a supportive adult to this child. You can be someone that is safe, but you're not their parent. You can't, and even if you, like, who would you report this to? Who would you say anything to? Like, nobody would take it seriously, which fucking sucks. I take it seriously. So what I know that you can do is to bring your energy back into your body and to be with how you feel, to feel how you feel about your child self, whose parent said whatever they said, or express things to other people about you, or there's probably a lot of layers in that interaction that you could, go through and look at the different layers if you wanted to. But what I really feel like, I mean, I'm so glad it exists. I'm so glad I made it, but plum practice is a practice because it is something that you gently and incrementally allow yourself this safe space to practice in. The mirror and the marble sensitization really is this foundational, amazing thing that I think gives you a taste of what plum practice is about. And it's more directive or more specific or more like connecting to your body in this particular way. Inside of the Plum Practice portal, we have over 50 sessions, and they're all different ways of creating some sensory experience. It's visualizations. It brings in different pieces and parts of your imagination and your intuition and your creativity, and then providing this space for self-expression. The words that came out in this writing, I think, are so poignant and beautiful. We could look at certain phrases, and I love that you looked things up in the dictionary. That just pleases my, love for dictionaries. And the meanings of things, I think, is so important. But it's like, if you wanted to dig in and go deeper and distill things down, that's what the Diner course is. It takes the writing from Plum Practice and provides this game where you then take a feeling or a phrase and you hold that while you experience another sensitization, and then you write from there. It unfolds in this really cool way. There are these guides that I've created that are available to you if it works for your life and all of that, but they are things that would help in that support. And in particular, there is a series called The Door that's all about energetic boundaries. You use the phrase leak, that there's a leak of energy that's happening, and it makes sense that there is an opening there. You feel very connected to children and their autonomy and their consent and their ability to be human beings that have privacy and ability to have a good time and be themselves. You have these young children, you're going to be around parents and children to have some energetic boundaries for yourself, something that you can call up in those moments. You can bring yourself back to your body. Being in a practice where it's not that hot, intense in the moment would give you that support, that when it is that moment that you go, the visualization of the door is installing a door so that you can be in command of what energy comes into your body and what stays on the outside. And then when there are these like charged moments, there's another series called The Lightning Rod that's all about redirecting that charged energy so that it doesn't electrocute your system. If you have a lightning rod on a building, that charged energy goes to this particular point. It's not disrupting the whole system. It's channeled in a specific way. There are things that I feel like would just make sense to you and would be helpful in that visualization and that energetic sensation.
I have been looking for a moment to be unstuck from like angsty knowing the things and using them sometimes, and I feel like I've been moving towards going and doing the Plum Practice, so I am looking forward to checking it out and doing the things, because I need something. The practice is good.
Yeah, I love that. I would love to have you be a Plum Practice member. I think it would make so much sense and be supportive to you, and that it is a private practice. You don't ever have to share anything with me or with anyone, but if you wanted to, we can get on a call like this anytime. What I realized through doing this work, doing an intuitive photo reading where somebody doesn't have to tell me anything, doesn't have to say a peep to me, and I can feel it and give an assessment or direction, recommendations of things, is really helpful, because I think a lot of us have tried the traditional paths and we know that there are people that have their own bias that impacts the kind of care that we receive. These particular things are sensitive and complicated and tangled. I love the phrase gentle and incremental because it sounds good together, and it just is true. It's like, I want to have a good time. I want to have fun. I want it to feel easy. It doesn't have to be hard. It can just be something where it's like you allow yourself to feel for a few minutes and then you express from that feeling. The things that come up when you're having the sensory experience might be memories, they might be moments or just flashes of something, or a feeling of something, or like you had this experience with the marble rolling to the spot and kind of feeling like, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it sort of felt like, that's not it. That's not anything. Like, give me some, like, roll to something important or do something, show me something big or whatever in it. But it really is showing you something big, I think. And it's available for us in witnessing ourselves, being able to hear ourselves back, because I think that's what people think therapy is that you express yourself and then somebody gives you something, tells you what to do or tells you how to feel better. And that really isn't always the case for everybody. And especially someone like you that is thinking and feeling so deeply and so broadly, it requires somebody to meet you in that energy. And so I'm so glad that we're connected now, because I do feel like I can meet you there and point to things that maybe aren't even in your frame of reference yet, but they're right on the periphery. I can feel it. I'm really excited for you. I don't think you're as stuck as you think you are.
I think technically I'm only stuck because I haven't done it, you know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Learning how to witness yourself, I think, is really available inside of Plumb practice, because Sarah and I are modeling it and talking about it in a really clear way. But if you wanted, because I have a sense of you that you like to know, you want to read the parenting books and know the details, know the science, or know the rules. Plum practice feels like simple. Okay, so it's an hour once a week. Like, yeah, I can do that. But is that really going to like change my life? Yeah, it will. Like, it really is fabulous and great, and it absolutely could. And if you want to like dig in and like really get it and understand how it works and why it works, the diner is completely instructional. In Plum practice, Sarah and I are sharing our feelings and our sensations, and we're having conversations about it. It's very intimate in that kind of sharing way. And the diner really is like, okay, you rest, you listen to yourself. And when you listen to yourself, these things are probably going to come up for you. It's very instructional, how to guide, very much like, this is why this works and this is how you can support yourself in this way. That framework is just fabulous that it's there. It's available to you if and when you want it or are interested in it. How it felt to me in creating it was like, okay, there's a game that we're sort of playing in the world that we've don't really want to be playing. It's not that fun. It's not a good time at all. Status and keeping up with the Joneses, pulling yourself up by your bootstraps, all of the things that you mentioned earlier, very much that. And when you have a brain that works in the way where it's like, that doesn't make sense. Why is it even, and it's frustrating and feels so like, to then have a framework that we get in a loop of thought in our minds, or there's a loop sensation to that. We take that sensation, that loop, and we make it fun. We make it a game, and where you can choose your own adventure. You can go through the little guided path, you make it your own. You can do things differently, but there's a framework that really works to distill down those feelings and get to the heart of the matter. The desire to be neutral, I hear in your writing and in what you're saying. I think that that is a springboard, something to find and then go from there. It feels like you've maybe been suppressing your own fun and your own good time and not allowing that part, because it getting hooked in the loop of like how much everything sucks. I hear you. I feel that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, the rules are made up and the points don't matter. The game is made up and we have to assign value to the points. And it's very stressful trying to assign value to the points. So, oof.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's why like having a different game, something that already exists that you don't have to figure out, but that you could just play inside of, feels like it would be really supportive to you. It makes me excited to be talking to you about it because I can just feel like how that would literally change the game. Ha 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 ha. But
yeah, I am in, yeah, I am like, I've been in a waiting, like my own restriction phase. And I've just been waiting till it felt right. And yeah, I'm I'm tired of not doing anything. So
yeah, I am curious, what had you submit your writing for this opportunity?
I've just been following you for a really long, what feels like a really long time, listening to the podcast and understanding your value of specific words and the way that you communicate so clearly of the things that are there, but no one is acknowledging. I just feel right about participating. I just like it.
Well, I love that. That's perfect. Because that's really what it is. If we can honor our inclination, our draw to things that I just like it and I like it, that's enough. I think that's exceptional. A lot of people don't allow themselves to just like something because they like it.
This is true.
It feels like that's an intentional choice that you're making. I'm really proud of you.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. How are you feeling now? The experience has been experiencing.
Not nervous. My writing, like it's still not what I would consider like good writing, but holy cow, it feels like such a big thing when I'm in the thick of it with these other parents and kids, and I just would have never considered that I was moving my energy to over there. And I always, I remind people, like my sister, like, it's like a time travel situation and, getting in that little mind thing. And I just didn't recognize it in me. And it's helpful to know that because I was just sitting upset and it wasn't really going anywhere.
Yeah.
And now it feels back in me. So that is nice.
Thank you for sharing that. I love to hear it. And it really is, I think, now a thing that you could use to check in with yourself, a system where it's like, ooh, if you're feeling upset and it feels like you're stuck in the upset, to just check in, go, okay, where is my energy? Is it with me or is it with someone else? Is it out there or is it in here? Who am I identifying with? in the situation. That's where our work is and what we get to choose. Am I interested? Do I feel curious about it? If you're like, ugh, I don't want to be thinking about this, can you set it on the shelf? Or is it something that you need to work out a little bit or put some intentional effort into processing or writing about or verbal journaling? You're the only one that's going to know that. To have a system to check in with yourself and a way to process feels like a really good way to set yourself up to be able to have more of a good time, because you have this way to process the feelings that you're having that aren't a good time.
Yeah. Yeah. And finding the system and finding the tools has been, they don't make it easy.
Yeah.
They don't make it easy. So I feel really appreciative of your work and all the stuff that you just put words to.
Thank you. That means a lot to me. Is there anything else you'd like to say before we end the call for today?
I don't think so. I think I'm
Okay.
good.
All right. Well, it was such a pleasure to meet you and to speak with you. I'm so glad that TikTok connected us. I would love to be kept in the loop of what's happening for you. If there is anything that you want to share, or if you want support, please reach out.
Well, I so appreciate that. Thank you.
I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day. It's my recommendation that you take it easy if you can. Drink a little extra water, hydrate yourself, maybe give yourself a treat or something that would feel soothing and comforting and special to that little child version of you. How can you have a good time? Because I think you are really thinking about how everyone else in your household can have a good time. It really starts with you. It starts with your energy. It starts with you having a good time. Whatever you can do to support yourself in having as many moments as you can be good times, highlight it and underline it and put an exclamation point on it and star it, circle it.
Important.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you. Yes.
Thank you so much, Madeline.
Thank you so much.
This conversation is a great example of what it can feel like to work with Rosalee one-on-one. We have links in our description box for how to book a clarity call with Rosalee. We also have links for booking an intuitive photo reading, joining the Plumb Practice membership, entering our online course, The Diner, and our free series of Plumb Practice called The Mirror.
We thank Madeline for joining me in this conversation and being willing to share the shifts that she experienced.
Tune in next week for a new episode of the Plumb Podcast, where you'll hear a new conversation from a new starting point. The conversation will be different, but we will always express ourselves authentically, and we create this space for you to do the same.